Erin here. I'm doing a presentation on the book La Mariposa by Francisco Jimenez and illustrated by Simon Silva. La Mariposa is about a little boy named Francisco. He is from Mexico and he starts going to an English-speaking school, but he can't speak any English. He's in first grade. So he tries really hard to pay attention, but he can't understand anyone. He starts to get headaches. But he finds comfort in watching this small caterpillar that the teacher has in a jar on the windowsill. So he struggles with understanding people, and he struggles with Curtis, who's the biggest, most popular kid in the class. And he struggles with the fact that the teacher won't allow him to speak Spanish, even with other Spanish speakers. But he also has enjoyments, the caterpillar and his friend Arthur, who is one of the Spanish-speaking kids, and playing on the swings. He enjoys the kids' name sounds, the sounds of their name, and art class. After kind of going through the year with him a little bit, after a while the principal gives him a jacket from the Lost and Found, but it turns out to be Curtis's, and Curtis gets upset with him, but of course Francisco can't understand him, and so they get into a tussle about it. But after a while, wartime goes by, and near the end of the school year, he gets a blue ribbon from the teacher for his drawing of a butterfly. And of course, the caterpillar turns into a butterfly, and the teacher lets Francisco let it out of the jar and out into the schoolyard. So it kind of has a sort of happy ending. So we have some bibliography info here. It definitely is long and pretty wordy. I think that although it is a picture book, that it would be just as interesting for upper elementary grades. Definitely even read out loud to kindergarten or first grade or even second grade, it might be a little hard for them to keep up and understand what's going on. But the older kids will be able to grasp it a little better. So this is a quote that I really liked. He turned his head away from them and looked at the caterpillar in the jar. And it just kind of captures the essence of the story. It shows the conflicts and it shows how Francisco is going to deal with the conflict. So he's turning his head away from the other kids in the class because he can't understand them. And he concentrates kind of on this caterpillar in the jar. So I included 2 book pages here because in this book there are pages with no pictures. So you can see the smaller picture of the page has no pictures, but also the page facing it has no pictures. So there are pictures in the book, but there's not a picture on every set of pages. So it's another reason it's probably better for older kids. You can see how much is on each page. Here's the second quote. During recess, they would play on the swings, and Francisco would pretend to be a Mexican movie star like Jorge Negrete or Pedro Infante, riding a horse and singing the corridos he heard on the car radio. And I just really love this quote because I just think it's a really beautifully written sentence. It just sounds, the sounds of the words are very pleasant, and it really is evocative of, like, you can really imagine being Francisco. And I think it's relatable to kids while also adding a new type of experience. So everyone knows that it's fun to play on the swings and pretend, but that you're adding this kind of new experience of pretending to be a Mexican movie star and singing corridos. So again, this part did not have an illustration at all. So I just showed the page there. And then the last quote is, "Que hermosa," she repeated, smiling down at Francisco. "How beautiful." So Francisco has just let the butterfly out of the jar, and he says, "Que hermosa," like like to himself, because he's gotten so used to keeping his Spanish to himself because the teacher keeps telling him not to speak Spanish. But here she recognizes the genuine, connection that he's having with this butterfly and the learning opportunity it is. And so she says, "How beautiful." I think it's interesting because in the illustration, she seems to be Mexican to me. And I wonder if she just didn't speak Spanish to him because she just felt like it would be better for him to learn the Spanish on his own. But I like this quote because it kind of brings the whole book together in this one sentence. It shows hope for a better future for Francisco and maybe a better future for the teacher. Maybe she's going to incorporate better practices. And it also brings a question to my mind, which is, what are the elements that made this a positive interaction for Francisco? Because it's the same teacher, same class, and everything. What are the things that made this a positive interaction for Francisco? If I have one criticism of this book, and that is that it's supposed to take place over an entire school year, and Francisco is a first grader. I mean, I have done some small work with ELL students, and I have also been a second language learner at that age in my life, and I feel like in real life, Francisco would have picked up on the English faster than he did in the book. However, that doesn't detract from the difficulties that he had and that some ELL students do have. Some social studies integrations or contexts, you can talk about a study of Mexican culture. Definitely, you can talk about immigration or the Southwest in the US, and of course, a study of contemporary issues. And then on the bottom here, I have a little link to a woman telling a Mexican folktale about butterflies, and it's supposed to tell where they came from and why they migrate. Thank you.